Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum dear students. Welcome to English grade 11 video lecture series. I'm your instructor Zia Hamid. I hope that you're doing well. Students, this is our very first lecture of new unit, and today we are going to talk about understanding using idioms and proverbs. The learning outcome or the SLO that we have today says that comprehend and use contemporary idioms and proverbs in the different texts and in their speech. Comprehend means to understand. We will understand, and not only understand, but we will use these contemporary idioms, these daily life used idioms that we have in that we use currently in the English language, the contemporary idioms and also the proverbs in different texts. Obviously, we encounter these idioms and proverbs in our reading text and also in speech and all of the other competencies. So, using them, understanding them is very much important. So, today's lecture is fully dedicated for idioms and proverbs. Here is your vertical linkage, dear students. It links your SLO with the previous grade just for your interest and for understanding. Now, students, let's talk about idioms or idiomatic expressions. We know that all languages have idiomatic expressions. And in the English language, we have so many idioms having interesting origin, meaning that we use in our daily conversation, in our writing, and we also hear them very often. So, and also proverbs, just like as you can see over here, he got caught red-handed. What do you mean by catching somebody with red-handed? Catching somebody right in the act. So this idiom means that you catch somebody doing something bad or problematic right in that very moment, catching red-handed. Obviously, this has a very interesting origin or history as well. So if you're interested about the origins of idioms and proverbs, you can look them up and you can memorize them as well in order to utilize these idioms and proverbs efficiently and effectively. Another one is letting the cat out of the bag. How do you use it? He finally let the cat out of the bag. Do not beat about the bush, just let the cat out of the bag. So, letting the cat out of the bag means that just get over with it, just tell us and just reveal yourself or reveal the thing that you're going to talk about. So, there are so many others like it's raining cats and dogs, spilling the beans, calling a spade, nail in the coffin. So, a lot of different idioms are there and we need to understand them and use them. So, can you come up with some idioms or idiomatic expressions that you have heard? So, do this quickly for a minute or two. Think about idioms that you know and write them down, and then you can find the meanings and how the idioms are working as well. All right. So, what is an idiom? An idiom is a phrase that has a meaning of its own that cannot be understood from the meanings of its individual words. It means that if you take each and every word of the idiom literally, you will not be able to understand it. We have to take the figurative meaning, the hidden meaning, or the implied meaning of that idiom in order to understand it. So this might take some effort, but it is worth doing it because we can learn so many idioms by doing that. So a phrase, we know phrase is a group of words. So a group of words that has a meaning of its own that cannot be understood from the meaning of individual words. So we have to take all of the words together, understand it figuratively to reach the meaning of an idiom. All right, we have established what an idiom is. Idiom has a non-literal meaning. It means that you cannot take the meaning of the idiom literally, because if you do, then you will not be able to comprehend it. In other words, idioms mean something different than the individual words. Only when they are utilized correctly and in the appropriate context can idioms be an effective language tool. Yes, students, you cannot take any idiom and put in your sentences. The context has to be right, and the idiom has to suit the situation or the scenario in order to utilize it. For example, if there is raining heavily, you can say it's raining cats and dogs. And if somebody is not addressing the main issue, you can say that let's address the elephant in the room. Why don't we talk about the bigger issue? Let's address the elephant in the room. This means that uh, avoid everything else, ignore everything else. Let's talk about the main problem, the main agenda that we have. So you can see that each and every idiom has its own understanding, working, and its meaning. Let's address the elephant in the room. Because elephant is big, you cannot ignore it. Just like the issue, which is very big, that you cannot ignore it. So it has a connection. An idiom always has connection with the context if you look up in the origin or history of that idiom. All right, students, here we have some idioms with meanings and examples. Number one, beat around the bush, or beating about the bush, as you can call it. It means to avoid talking about what's important. So if somebody is avoiding talking about which thing is very much important, they are beating about the bush, and they are ignoring the main problem, and they are avoiding and ignoring the main issue. For example, you can use it in a sentence, don't beat about the bush, come straight to the point. So beating about the bush means that do not actually talk about anything else, talk about the main issue. Next, get your act together. This is an idiomatic expression. This phrase means get organized and do things effectively. So you can say, I wish she had get her act together. Getting your act together means do things in the right way, how they are supposed to be done. So you can memorize these idioms. These are contemporary idioms that are used in daily lives and in your writing. Now, when we are talking about an idiom, every idiom has an origin. An idiom has a history behind it. So it has a background. Let's take the idiom beating about the bush or beating around the bush. Where does it come from? What's the history? Let's talk about it. To beat about the bush comes from the 14th century proverb, one beats the bush, another takes the bird, which means that while one person does most of the work, the other takes the profit. And who's taking the profit? Somebody who is not hunting but beating about the bush is the one who's taking all the profit of the hunting. So that's how it originated from this phrase. The phrase comes from the early hunting of game birds, when the beater would disturb the bird and the hunter would catch it. Now, who has caught the bird? The catcher. And the beater is just beating about the bush to distract the birds to come out of the bushes and fly so that the hunter or the person can shoot it down and gather it. But who has done the work? The shooter. And who is just beating about the bush and ignoring the real issue? The person who is not talking, who is not addressing the main point and just talking about something else. So this is how this phrase became an idiom, and now we use it for person who does not address the real problem. So we say, stop beating about the bush, stop beating around the bush and come to the point. All right, here is another phrase which is an idiom, go down in flames. Now, what do you mean by go down in flames? You can find the meaning of the idiom in your idioms dictionary, in your different sources. Go down in flames or going down in flames means to end badly. Something that does not have a good ending and something that ends in a bad way, we call it going down in the flames, or it went down in the flames. For example, my speaking presentation will go down in flames if I don't practice a lot. So this is how we properly utilize the idiom going down into flames or going down in flames. My speaking presentation will end badly if I don't practice. So instead of just saying it normally, we can use the idiom going down in flames. And we use idioms, dear learners of English language, we use it so that we can sound like native speakers and we choose and speak confidently with interesting word choice and interesting phrases to catch the attention of the reader and the listener. And that's why we connect with these idioms so that we can engage the audience or the readers. All right, so students, idioms are of so many categories. There are idioms for that are having the word food, that are referring to food in idioms. There are idioms with numbers, with ages, with different things. So there are numerous categories of idioms of every scenario. Here we will discuss some idioms that have food mention in it. For example, calling somebody apple of my eye. Apple of my eye means a favorite person of somebody. So if a mother says that my son Ali is the apple of my eye, it means she is showing her love. It means that her favorite person is her son. So an apple of my eye has the fruit apple in it. So when we are saying that comparing apples to oranges, this is an idiom. What do you mean by this? It means to compare things that are very different. So if somebody is comparing different things, we can say this is not how it works. You are comparing apples with oranges. Those things are different. You cannot compare them together to make a point. So comparing apples and oranges, apples with oranges means, or comparing apples to oranges means comparing things that are very different, that are very unlikely to happen. Next, rotten to the core. It means very bad or corrupt. So if somebody is bad or corrupt, or the system is bad or corrupt, we can say the system is rotten to the core, just like an apple. It is not edible anymore. It has been completely, like you should throw it away. It is not working now. It is not edible. So if something is not working, if somebody who is corrupt or who is bad, you can say he or she is rotten to the core, just like an apple. So this is also an idiom related to the food terms. Now, students, there are a lot of unfamiliar idioms that we come across in our reading comprehension and also in our listening skills. So how do we crack the code? How do we actually understand the unfamiliar the unfamiliar phrases or idioms? There are some steps. First one is that you need to understand the situation in which the idiom is used. When you hear or read an idiom, don't try to understand each word literally, because they are non-literal. They are having non-literal meanings. Instead, think about the situation where it was said. So analyzing the situation will help you in understanding the idiom. And secondly, understand what the speaker or the writer is trying to say, not just the words they used. To understand their intention, their facial expressions, their body language, their context in case of reading, you can quickly go to the meaning of the idiom. This is how you actually work with unfamiliar idioms. Okay, till now, I hope everything is clear. Now let's talk about proverbs. What are the differences between an idiom and a proverb? Are they different? Yes, of course, they are different in their working and in their nature. Idioms are fixed. You cannot change the idioms. They are fixed expressions that contains a figurative meaning. So we have 2 points over here. Idioms are fixed. You cannot make your own idioms and expect others to understand it. You have to use the fixed expressions and idioms, and the idioms are understood with figurative meaning, not literal meaning. On the other hand, proverb is a short, well-known saying that contains an advice. So proverbs are having advices, good sayings, good ethical, moral values are included in proverbs. So proverbs are short, well-known saying that contains an advice. Point number 2 about idiom is idiom do not contain a moral, whereas proverbs contain a moral or an advice based on the general truth. Idioms are phrases, not complete sentences. Yes, we have to have more information with the idiom in order to utilize it. The idioms on their own are not making complete sense, just like phrases. But proverbs are fully furnished and established sentences, and they can be understood independently. Fourth point is that idioms do not make sense if you are not familiar with it. You have to have heard about the idiom, you have to actually look for their meaning or ask somebody in order to understand it, because they are figurative. But proverbs can be understood even if you are hearing it for the very first time, because they are written in an easy language and in a literal way, unlike idioms that are written in the figurative meaning or using the figurative language. So these are all the differences between idioms and proverbs. Now you are clear about the differences. Let's talk about some examples. So proverbs are popular advice, or they are observations to give you a message, a moral or ethical message or observation. For example, there is a proverb, don't put all your eggs in one basket. This is a proverb. It means that divide and conquer. Do not put all your eggs in one basket, because if they fall, all of them would break. So it is very much smart to put your eggs in different baskets. So even if one breaks, you have another one. So this is a very good advice for life. Second proverb is a leopard can't change its spots. It means that you cannot change something that is not in your control. Changing the spots have in no control of the lion. So it means a leopard. So it means that there are some things that are not in your control and you cannot change them. So it has a beautiful advice, it has a beautiful piece of advice in it. But now we understood these proverbs easily without going into much detail. But when we are talking about idioms, dear learners, they are non-literal words. For example, he was caught red-handed. He was caught in the act. If somebody has killed somebody and the police arrive on time, we can say that he was caught red-handed with the blood on the hand, and he was caught right in the act. So catching somebody with red hands or catching somebody red-handed has a figurative meaning, not the literal meaning. All right. So proverbs are short, popular saying that gives advice about how people should behave, or that expresses a belief that is generally thought to be true. The literal meaning of a proverb makes sense on its own, but the real point of the proverbs is understood when applied to the broader set of situations. So they are short sayings, easy to understand, and can be taken literally, and all the proverbs are making sense on their own independently, unlike the idioms. Let's talk about some proverbs. Number one, absence makes the heart goes fonder. What do you mean by this? It means being away from someone or something for a period of time makes you appreciate that person or thing more when you see them or it again. So the absence actually grows the love inside you. If you are not seeing somebody, for example, if you're not seeing any one of your parents for 3 weeks, for a month, the love for them will increase rather than decreasing. So it means that absence makes the heart grow fonder. For example, I used to hate going to my aunt's house, but now I kind of miss it. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. So now the writer says, the speaker says that he or she used to hate going to aunt's house, but it has been so much time that now he or she miss going there, because absence make heart grow fonder. You get fond of somebody when you do not see them for a long time, you start missing it or missing them. So next proverb is actions speak louder than words. This is a very popular proverb. It means what you do is more important than what you say. Or you can also say that practice what you preach. It is related with this proverb. Don't just tell me you're going to change. Do it. Action speaks louder than words. If you perform something, if you act out, it is better than saying it. So this is a very good piece of advice. And lastly, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. This is this is a proverb with full of moral value, and it is about taking the first step. It means you must begin something if you hope to finish it. Something that takes a long time to finish begins with one step. If you want to lose weight, you need to stop eating junk and you need to start exercising. Today, not tomorrow. A journey of 1,000 miles begin with a single step. And rightfully so, this is how you will use your proverb in the right context. So now you've understood it. Proverbs are actually sayings of, they are coming from the history, they are coming from people from the earlier generation with so much wisdom. They are coming from the old people who have so much experience in their life. They curated these kind of proverbs for us to have advices or general truths about something. Now, students, here is a quick test. Let's talk about these idioms, these phrases. This one is called bite the bullet. Now, what do you understand by it? If you visualize this idiom, biting the bullet, bullet is hard. It means biting the bullet would be getting something over with, stop complaining, act braver than you are, or work more quickly. This means act braver than you are. Somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to bite the bullet. Somebody has to do something, the hard task. It's called biting the bullet. This is a idiom. By the skin of his teeth. What do you mean by this? It means barely. So, if somebody is barely escaped from something, you can say he escaped by the skin of his teeth. He barely did that. He barely did the homework. So barely is the right word for by the skin of his or her teeth. Spill the beans. What do you mean by spilling the beans? This is a idiom. It means revealing a secret. He accidentally spilled the beans in the party. It means he accidentally told a secret that was not supposed to be told to anybody. So spilling the beans means telling a secret. Now, can you use it in your own sentences? Yes. Write them down, write and note all the idioms that we are talking about today and try to use them in your sentences. This is your task which you're supposed to do. The elephant in the room. It means an obvious issue. Let's address the elephant in the room. Let's address the obvious issue that we have today. Now we have this simulation link where you will have, you can find idiom quizzes, and there are a lot of them that you can solve, and you can also find the correct answer. So this simulation link is attached with the PPT. You can get access. It's a free website that you can visit and learn more about idioms. So by using this simulation, you can have a extensive learning experience. The worksheet is attached regarding the main lesson, which is about idioms. You can access it and solve the worksheet. Now let's talk about the homework, dear students, about the proverbs that you're supposed to do. Write down the meanings of these following proverbs. What do you understand by this? If you play with fire, you will get burned. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. There is no place like home. Time is money. Don't count your chickens before they hatch. And the early bird gets the worm. So you have to find out the meaning and write them down. Before taking any help, try to decode it with your own understanding and then write the meanings. All right. When we are talking about idioms, you have to write down the meaning of these given idioms and use them in your sentences. This is all about today's lecture, dear students. All these resources are added for your understanding and for your help. You can find them attached with the video and in the description. So, students, I hope that now you have understood that what are idioms and proverbs. Idioms are figurative, having non-literal and figurative meaning. They are phrases, and your proverbs are sayings and advices of moral and ethical sayings. This is all you need to know about that. This was the overview. Now it's time for you to solve the given exercises, homework, and also worksheet, skill sheet, and other resources. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you had a great time learning about idioms and proverbs. See you in the next video lesson. Till then, take care of yourselves and Allah Hafiz.